Number 28, like I showed you earlier, this one's capital per worker, this is output worker, an increase in net investment. Okay, this is a new term, net investment. So what this means is businesses, if they spend money on their capital, they either have a negative net investment or a positive net investment. So what that means, like trucks and machines wear out, don't they? Okay, they need tires, oil changes, all that stuff. So you have to write down, here's how much this truck costs, here's how much a new clutch is, or brakes, or whatever. And if you don't put that money into the truck is worth less money, isn't it? So that is a negative. You'll have negative net investment. Say you don't spend any money maintaining your capital goods, the things that make you your money. Then they depreciate. So depreciation is the key to net investment. Did you spend more fixing or replacing your tools than they depreciated? So depreciation means they lose value because they're wearing out. So if we have a negative net investment, then that's bad for our capital, isn't it? So if we have an increase in net investment, that would be a positive investment, isn't it? So that leads to faster economic growth, because you can't do much work if all your machines are broken, can you? All right. So if we have a positive investment, then our capital can improve, and what would happen to supply? More or less, it would go up. Okay. If we add more capital, more tools, a positive investment, we also have long-run supply that would shift right. Can't we make more GDP if we have more capital? Okay. So that little clue right there about investment is a new thing, net investment. It's just, are you outgaining your depreciation of your machines? Okay. So that will lead to faster economic growth because capital per worker and output per worker will change in which of the following ways. So I want to know capital output and worker output. So if I have an increase in my net investment, my workers get more capital, right? So say you have 10 employees and you have $100,000 in machines, just take $100,000 and divide it by that. Or I did $1 million in capital and 100 workers. So basically you're figuring out how much capital you have for each one of your workers. So now we're going to give each of them more capital, aren't we? More tools. So that's an increase. And what will their output do if they have more tools? It goes up. Okay? So the first answer, A, is the correct answer. And I don't even have to work through all the other ones because I know for a fact if I know what net investment is, I can solve that one. Okay? That makes sense? Taylor? Making sense?
Yes.
All right. Everybody good? Questions? No? Okay. All right. 29. Looks like a mess. I wrote all over it. All right. If a country's economy is operating below full employment level of output, below full level of output, what does that tell you immediately? What are they in? Inflation, equilibrium, or recession?
Recession.
They're in a recession. So I circled this in green because in my head I'm thinking, all right, we need to fix it, don't we? Okay, I kind of pre-plan as I read the question of what I might have to solve. So right here I know something green, unemployment might need to go up. So we're at a below full employment level of output at a very low inflation rate. The central bank, there's another word for them, isn't it? So central bank is who? The Fed, the Federal Reserve Bank. So what kind of policy do they do? Fiscal or monetary?
Monetary.
They do our monetary policy, don't they? Okay, so once again, just another synonym, central bank. So now I'm thinking central bank money supply. Okay, so I'm thinking a green money supply. It's an expansionary thing, isn't it? So now, if the central bank of that country is most likely to, so they need to do something to fix it, don't they? This is not government spending, it's not taxes. So then, if you remember we did these tools last time of our expansionary stuff, okay? So now I got to look through these and figure out, all right, where's my expansionary money supply? It says pursue an expansionary monetary policy because it's required to do so by law whenever output is below full employment. That's not true. Our Federal Reserve Bank doesn't have a law that says, oh, there's a recession, drop interest rates. They have to judge, and we have to elect them, okay? And the Federal Reserve chairman or chairwoman, chairperson is appointed by the president, okay? And approved by the Senate and all that. So that's the thing that knocks that out. And that's a tricky answer choice because it's not a law, okay? All right, B, pursue an expansionary fiscal policy. You can stop right there on that one, can't you? Okay? All right, then C, lower the discount rate and buy bonds in the open market. Those lower discount rate leads to that's a low target interest rate, isn't it? So that's expansionary. Buy bonds, what kind of bucks does that make? Big bucks. So if the money supply goes up, what do interest rates do? They drop, and then investment goes up. So C looks really good, doesn't it? Okay, well, let's check just to make sure. Lower the reserve ratio. That's a good one. What do excess reserves do at a low reserve ratio?
They multiply.
They go up. Remember, excess reserves is the money that can be loaned.
Okay.
And if we say, hey, banks, you don't have to keep as much of this cash in your vault, you can make some more loans, then that money supply will expand and get bigger, won't it? Then interest rate drops and investment goes up. Uh-oh, sell bonds. That's contractionary. Don't need that. Okay? So D is out. Then E, raise the discount rate. That's contractionary. That's out. So best answer now is C. And you get torn between A and C, but this part is to do by law whenever we have a recession. We just don't have laws like that. We need a Federal Reserve Bank that can monitor our economy and do the right things. Okay? All right, so that was a little bit more complicated, but once you know your policies and you're strong on them, you should be able to solve these. Okay? Oliver?
Can you remind me what a discount rate is?
The discount rate is the rate at which banks can borrow money from the Federal Reserve. So remember, they call other banks and try to borrow at the Fed funds rate, and if that's not available, then they have to call the Federal Reserve. That's how the Federal Reserve System keeps the money supply fed. Okay, number 30. Assume that the economy is currently in long-run equilibrium and the short-run aggregate supply curve is upward sloping. Okay? Long-run equilibrium. Which graph is that? Is it to the left, to the right, or are they all three crossing?
They're all in the same spot.
They're all three crossing. Okay, so short-run equilibrium, long-run equilibrium is where all three are crossing. Short-run equilibrium can be at it can be a recession, it can be an inflation, okay? Remember, this is long-run equilibrium because all three are crossing, supply, demand, okay? This is short-run equilibrium, even though it's a recession. This is short-run equilibrium, even though it's inflation. So there's still equilibriums, they're just different kinds, okay? Long-run means we're doing well. Supply curve upward sloping. That doesn't mean anything. It's just a distractor. We know it's upward sloping. Okay? All right. Adverse supply shock. Is adverse good or bad? Bad. Okay. Supply. Who is that? Consumers or businesses? All right. So a shock. Something bad happened, right? You own a lumber company and all the trees just burned down. Okay? You own a trucking company and gas just doubled in price. Okay, which happened in the 70s, didn't it? We had a gas shortage because we had Middle East issues. Okay, so adverse supply shock, such as drought, will most likely cause which of the following to the economy in the short run? So now you got to think short run decrease. Now, if I've done short run decrease, then I can think about how does that affect things. So if supply goes down, are people working and making stuff? No. Supply is decreasing, right? There's less resources, so when you show up to work to go build a table out of wood and all the trees are gone, you can't work, can you? Yeah, you go home and you don't get paid, do you? Okay, so I know what is going to happen to people. GDP is going to go down, right? Okay, now, what happens when we did aggregate demand change at all? Do people still want to buy products right now? Yes, this is only moving one of them at a time. So now we have the same amount of people and the same amount of demand. So in this one right here, we're at equilibrium. Okay? So if we're at equilibrium, then all of a sudden, what happened here? We had a decrease in supply, didn't we? So what happens to prices? They go up. What happens to output? It decreases. So GDP can also be measured in income as well, right? Expenditure or income. So if you see national income or incomes will decrease, that's because people aren't at work making anything. If you don't go to work, you will not have money. Okay? So our graphs can tell us everything. Okay? On your multiple choice, if you're going at a good pace and you have time to graph something, you can graph it. If you can think about this, but just by holding your pen and going, okay, it slides up here, it's going to cross up there, which is higher, you can just draw that little dot and then see that price went up and GDP went down. Okay, just to work yourself through these questions. So now on here, I've got my adverse supply shock. Something bad happened. Price level went up, GDP went down, it caused an inflation. Okay, so GDP, remember we have RIP equals GDP. So that's income. That's kind of a curveball that can be thrown at you. They'll ask questions about national income. Well, if we add up RIP or SIG-X, we get GDP, don't we? All right, so now let's look through here. Decrease in price level. Not true. There's less stuff available. It's scarce. It's expensive. So decrease in price level, decrease in price level. All right, now I'm down to these three. Increase in price level and increase in wages. Did people get a raise? No. That one's out. An increase in the price level and an increase in the real wage. Well, the problem with real wage is what? What keeps it real?
Inflation.
You have to subtract inflation. So, we're not increasing real wages when we're causing inflation, are we? Alright, so now an increase in the price level and a decrease in the real wage. If you understood and kept up with that one, good for you. You've come a long way. That's a hard question. Okay, you got to know a lot of different things. If you don't think it was hard at all, then even better for you. Okay, so you guys are getting there. You are. Alright, now 31. If country alpha has been experiencing a higher inflation rate than country beta over the past decade. So sometimes what I like to do over here is I like to think alpha and beta. Where do people want, we're selfish, aren't we? Where do you want to shop? Do you want to shop where it's more expensive or where it's less expensive? I want to shop where it's cheaper. So alpha has been experiencing a higher inflation rate than beta. So things in alpha, over here I just put price level up and price level down. So now I'm thinking, if alpha has inflation, country beta, what are their exports going to do? They're going to send, that's right, to alpha. Because people in alpha are going to want things from beta, aren't they? Okay? They'll buy a lot of fish from them. So, which of the following is true now? This is about foreign exchange. So if you live in alpha, what type of money do you need to buy things from beta? You need beta dollars. Okay? So what we end up doing is we put our alpha money back in its supply, and then we demand beta dollars. Okay? And we'll work on those graphs. Okay? So whenever something's wanted, what does the price do? It goes up. So that one will appreciate. So alpha's currency will have depreciated relative to beta's. Because alpha's currency now has more in its supply. When there's more of it, it gets cheaper. Then when you demand the other one, it goes up in price. It appreciates. Then we can get SID and WES and do our solving. Okay, this could be an FRQ that you graph. But just remember, TRIPS, that acronym, taste, real interest, income, price level, and speculation, those items, that's why people need currency. So if you need or want someone else's currency, then you have to put yours back in the supply and demand the other one. And that's how we get exchange rates. Okay? So B is the best answer right there. Alright, now on to national economic figures in billions of dollars. Based on the figures in the table above, what is the value of GDP in billions of dollars? Well, here's the trick right here. I've got 3,000 consumption, I've got 700 of investment, then government spending. I'm basically just adding up SIG-X. Government spending of 1,000, and then minus 200 because I have to net these out. Remember, it's called net exports. So once I net those out, I have my negative 200. Answer is 4,500. Everybody good? That was an easy one? Okay, as long as you remember that little formula for net exports.